This video pertains to accessing, practicing, and reporting your practice work on the multiple choice question assignments that you have to complete during the semester. There's no magic formula for passing the exam. Those who pass the exam pass because they have continually practiced the type of problems that are typically found on the CPA exam, in this case the audit portion of the CPA exam. Approximately 60% of your course grade will be devoted to the amount of effort you put into practicing for the exam. So that's why we're going to talk about dealing with multiple choice question practice sets. So let's assume that we've just signed into the classroom and we're now on the announcements page, and there's no announcements right now, obviously, because we haven't started the course yet, at least at this time of the video. And the first thing you'd want to go down to is the week or the weeks that is pertaining to the current weeks. So in this case, I'm going to go to week beginning, and I'm going to say the week beginning example. This is an example week. So I click on that week. And now I see several different sections with the week beginning called example. I have certain tasks that I need to accomplish for example week, and one of those tasks is to complete a 5 MCQ, in other words multiple choice question practice set from category 6A1, 6A2 all the way through 6B2. Now categories are the way that Surgent groups CPA multiple choice questions. They're broken down, they're separated into specific categories, and this particular assignment is asking you to address categories 6A1 through 6B2, and it needs to be done by January the 1st, 2017. So I'm going to go ahead and do my 5 multiple choice question practice sets. Now remember, these are simply 5 MCQ questions. Throughout the semester, you're going to perform at least 940 multiple choice practice questions. So the first thing I want to do now is in order to perform those questions, I need to sign on to the Surgent CPA review site, and in this case I'm going to sign on it directly from my Blackboard, my Cabrini Learn Blackboard. I click on the Surgent CPA review module, and I hear my login. I've asked it to remember my login and password, so now I'm going to enter that information, and then I'm going to launch the site. And now I'm at the Surgent CPA Review Auditing and Attestation dashboard. And when you want to, let's assume now that you have to answer 5 multiple choice questions out of category 6A1 through 6B, I believe B3 or B4. Now, in order to do that, you go over to under the Study Session tab and click on Customize Study. Okay, now you're on the Customize Study landing screen. Now you click on Objective Questions, and in this case we land on the Objective Questions. You can see the Objective Questions box is highlighted, and it says here, select from the options below to customize your Objective Questions study section. And that's what we're going to want to do. So now I'm going to look at the categories of questions. And you can see there's 6 major categories. And again, what I asked you to do was I asked you to do 6A1 through 6B, again 3 or 4. So what we need to do is we need to go to category number 6 and I'm going to hit the plus box, which will give me the detail of 6A, and now it breaks down in from 6 into 6, category 6A and 6B. Now I need to break that further because I need to break it down into category 6A1 through 6A6 and then the 6B series. So I'm going to break down the 6A1 into 6A1, A2, A3, A4, A5. I'm going to do the same thing for 6B, which will be 6B1 and 6B2. Now I only want to select those items that pertained to that practice set. So what I will do is I will check off my profession or 6A, 6A 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I'll check off 6B. So what this means is that the system will automatically select a random number of questions. In this case, I'm going to select 5 questions from the categories that are checked. Now, notice that when I checked 6A and 6B, it also checked 6 at the top level, at the highest category, because basically I'm looking at all those questions. But there's going to be a number of situations where there's a lot of different subcategories. As an example here, in category number 2, I may ask you to select category 2A and B, and then category 2 D1 and D2, but not D3. So again, it will only select from those items that I have actually checked off, and that's what I want to do. So let's go back to our original categories. I have to check off all these items that I've just checked, and I'm going to go back down to category number 6 right here. Let me close out the rest of these categories just so they become a little bit less confusing. Okay, here's category 6. So in this case, I'm going to select all of basically 6A1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 6B1 and 6B2. So again, I'm going to get all my questions from those particular categories, and they're going to be randomly selected. Okay, now it says here, questions from selected all questions. I have a number of different options. I want to retain where it says all questions. Session duration. Okay, I can pick the number of questions I want to select. I can do 5, 10, 20, 30, all the way up to 100 questions. Now, some of you, if you're given a 100 question assignment, you may prefer to do this all as one operation where you would say, okay, select 100 questions. Then when you pick start, you're going to go through 100 questions. Others of you may pick a section of 10 questions, go through start, and based upon that you can go through 10 questions, rest for a while, or do something else, and then pick another set of 10 questions. Now the question is it possible that a question is going to repeat itself? And the answer is yes, that's quite possible. But that's okay, because if you got the question right, when you get it again, what's going to happen is it's going to help reinforce what you know about that question. Also, another smart thing to do is take a look at the question, the items that were not correct. In other words, you're going to pick A, B, C, or D, and if A was a correct answer, take a look at B, C, and D, and in your mind, try to determine why those answers were incorrect. So by doing that, you'll learn even more. You can pick any number. Now, number of questions here. Now the other thing is you can go ahead and instead of doing it by questions, you can do it by, I want to spend a half an hour doing questions, and then you can do as many questions as you want within that half hour, or 60 minutes, or so forth. Now right now I'm just going to pick 5 questions again from all questions, and I'm going to now click on start. Okay, this is an example of what your page will look like when you get the question. And what I want to do is just spend a few minutes regarding this page, the format of this page. Okay, if you take a look at the upper left-hand corner, you can see an arrow pointing to the right. When you have actually answered the question, you click on that, and then it will give you whether you got the response right or wrong. And if you got it wrong, it'll show you information as to what the right answer is and so forth. If you simply give up on a question, you can guess and mark wrong. I wouldn't recommend using that. If you're going to guess and mark wrong, I would simply still go ahead with the forward arrow. You're also given the opportunity to bring up a calculator on the exam. And if you want to print the question, if you want to do that, you simply go ahead and you can also print the question. Now, if for some reason, let's say that you pick the half an hour session and you want to end it early, you simply click end session and that ends the session. There's no penalty for ending the session, and the questions that would be coming up are not marked wrong. You simply end the session. Here the question is, any officer or director of an issuer is strictly prohibited from, and you're given 4 of the responses. And in this case, we're going to pick, let's see, we have 4, first of all, an officer or director of an issuer is strictly prohibited from A, investing in stock or the stock option as the issuer. That doesn't sound quite right. Let's try another one. B, owning more than 10% of the issuer's stock. I don't recall any prohibition against that. And the third one is taking any action to fraudulently influence a registered public accounting firm or any of its members. Now that sounds pretty intriguing right there. Notice in this case I immediately ruled out A and B because I know officers and directors can invest in the stock of an of the issuer. I also know they'll own more than 10% of the stock of the issuer. Therefore, if I take a look at answer D, it says all of the answers are correct. Well, I know at least one of A is incorrect and B is incorrect. So in theory, even if I didn't strictly know the answer, by deduction, it's got to be C because not all the answers are correct. Now let's hope it is C. So I'm going to go ahead now and select that, and I'm going to press the right arrow. And in this case, the right arrow is, or the arrow is, you are correct. The answer is C. And again, based upon your correct response, it tells you where Title 303 of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act prohibits any officer or director from taking any action to fraudulently influence, coerce, manipulate, or mislead any independent public or certified public accountant engaged in the performance of the audit of the financial statements of the issuer. So basically what this is saying is that under Sarbanes-Oxley, this would be pretty much a federal crime if a officer or a company or director attempts to do this. And also, if you take a look at this, there's you can take a look at the definition of the different terms. What is fraud? Okay, now the word issuer may be new to you, and it's used all the time with within the realm of CPAs and the CPA exam. I can click on that, and it tells me what an issuer is. It means an issuer is defined in the SEC Act in 1934, and it goes on. It goes on to this next paragraph. In simple terms, the SEC Act in 1934 defines issuer as an entity who issues or proposes to issue any security with some noted exceptions. So what they're really saying is, and this is what's coming out in this third paragraph, the term issuer replaces the terms public entity or publicly traded company. So it's any company that's publicly traded is defined as the issuer. So you can learn some of these terms too if you don't know them. Also, the information that pertains to this particular answer is located in reference sections 3612.78 of the Surgent reference manual, and you can see the reference right here. Now, they take that portion out of the reference manual and give you the quote. You could go to the reference manual and look up this exact reference and you get the same thing. So again, if you get the question right, you can help reinforce some of the information. If you get the question wrong, you can understand why the question's wrong and what the authoritative literature is regarding this information. Okay, so now we've answered that question. So now we're going to click the right arrow again and move on to the next question. Okay, statement on quality control standards requires a system of quality control and auditing. Okay, now what we're going to do in this particular case is we're going to make a selection, and I'm just making one, let's say, at an informed and I'm just trying to get through here. Oh my goodness, the answer, I incorrectly selected the wrong answer. And this says you answered D. The correct answer is C. And again, what you'll find out is the statement here, they said the statement of quality control services, a firm's system of quality control requires a system of quality control for a firm's accounting and auditing services, and the quality standard state, and you're given the quote and so forth. So that gives you an idea that in question number C. Let's try one more real quick question. Which of the following best describes what is meant by the term generally accepted auditing standards? Okay, in this case, I'm going to pick D again. Rules acknowledged. Just see if that's right. And another wrong answer. So again, you answered D. The correct answer is B. So in this particular case, then what I can do is I can read the information regarding generally accepted auditing standards, and again, I can look up the reference terms and also the reference in the Surgent reference manual. And again, if I want to, I can look up under 3611.56. I can look that up within the reference manual itself. Now, let's assume that I've completed all my questions. So at this point in time, I'm going to say in the session. Okay, and it's asking me, are you sure you want to end? And I'm going to say okay. And now I get a session summary report of how well I had done. And I had 3 questions, and it gives me the question number from the database, the category of the question, and again we picked 6A1, 6A2 through 6A6, and 6B1 and 6B2. So you can see that's from these categories, and it talks about the type of question, the score, and with multiple choice questions your score is either 0 or 100%, and the amount of time I took on each question. I get then a summary of my session score, which is 33%, which is 100% divided by 3. Total time 9 minutes. The average time is 3 minutes per question. Okay, now the question is, how do I report this information as completed? And I have to report it within Blackboard. So what we're going to do now is, let's assume that I've finished all my multiple choice questions, even though I just did 3. I click Done here, and I'm going to go back up to the dashboard. Okay, we're starting at 1935. Now let's assume that I'm done answering all my multiple choice questions. I have to report the results of my multiple choice question practice, and I have to do that within Blackboard, within Cabrini Learn. Surgent CPA Review, being a commercial course, does not integrate with our Blackboard Cabrini Learn. So the user, you being the user, the student, has to self-report their progress. Now here's something that's very important to remember. Okay, I got one question right and I got two questions wrong. Okay, the key thing is that to get credit for practicing, I do not need to answer every question correctly. What I do need to do is show that I've taken sufficient time to consider each question and arrive at an answer. Even if I get it wrong, I get credit for answering the question. Typically, if I see students answering questions typically under 1 minute, I'm going to seriously question whether the student made an effort to try to practice the question or not. Now, if you want to report the information, what we need to do is we need to go back to the dashboard. And with the dashboard then, we need then to go to under reports, under progress report. I click on that. Now this gives me an overall progress report. Here's my individual categories 1 through 6, and you can see I have a lot of numbers in here just because I've done a lot of work on these on these questions through other courses. And for each category, it gives me my total questions, the questions I did not answer correctly, the questions I haven't seen, my total question attempts, my average score, my average trending score, which is the last series of the last questions that I have tried to achieve. You notice in the past it was at 60%, and by adding these additional questions it goes down to 33%. And the total average time per question is 2 minutes and 18 seconds. Now I'm going to ask you to report on your category number 6, but I'm going to ask you to report on it at the next sub-level. In other words, we have assignments 6A1 through 6A6 and 6B1 through 6B2. So I'm going to ask you to report on category 6A, the next level down, and 6B. So I click on detailed report, and now I'm going to see a report that gives me the detail work of all my categories. Now in this case, I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom here, and I'm still okay, and now I'm down to category number 6, professional responsibilities. And again, you have to remember that I've done a number of these, but I need to basically select the items that shows the items I have practiced. These numbers are going to be much different from you, are going to be much more accurate. So I need to pick those up. Now I don't want to pick up 6A1, 6A2, 6A3 and report those independently. I want to pick up the numbers from 6A, which would be these numbers right here. Whoops, sorry, these numbers right at this level right here. And also the second set of numbers would be the numbers for 6B. This will give me my summary information that I'm going to report to Blackboard. And we're going to end the video here, and there will be a second video on reporting this information to Blackboard.